You would have heard the tributes from either complete strangers and those who have been close to her, describing exactly the kind of woman that she was. In studio with me to give us a bit more insight into some personal experiences and stories, her former spokesperson, Udo Froese. He's accompanied by former youth representative Thato Mmereki, who of course says he was mentored by Mam Winnie. Gentlemen, let me thank you both for your time tonight.
Good evening. Thank you, Kathy.
Udo, perhaps let me begin with you. How did you and Mam Winnie meet?
We met at the independence celebrations of Namibia in March 1990. We met prior to that in 1987 very briefly on Wits campus, where she arrived and held a speech, and then the cops came and chased everybody away. And we ran for our lives. She just disappeared into the Toyota Cressida and drove off. But I saw for the first time then live, and I fell in love with her because she was so beautiful and so strong. The second time was during the independence celebrations in March 1990, when I was assigned to drive the Mandelas. He had just been released from prison, from Victor Verster. And they arrived in the private jet, the Mandelas, and Joe Slovo, Joe Modise, Ellen Busak, and a host of other people as well. So we spent a whole weekend together, and we got chatting and we got talking, and then back in Joburg I made contact. And we stayed in contact ever since. And I met Zinzi and Zeni and the whole family, the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren. I met everybody. I became very much part of the Mandela family.
Describe to us, what came out of that relationship, especially in the context of the different roles that you would then subsequently play in not just her life, but that of her extended family.
Well, at times, for example, she had to drive off to Durban to a funeral with her former husband and a variety of other people, because one of their daughter-in-laws had passed on. And halfway on the way there, I got a call. I was at a dinner with friends of mine in Rivonia. I received a call from Mam Winnie saying, please go to Zinzi's house and be there for the grandchildren and the children, because we are not there for the evening. So I said goodbye to my hosts, went off to Zinzi's house, and we then sat together and chatted and laughed and had a good evening.
How did you receive the news of her passing?
Very sad. She was in and out of hospital for over a year. I didn't expect it. It was just happened so quickly. Very sad indeed.
Where were you?
I was at home. I didn't expect it at all. But next thing I heard, I got a call from some ANC members who called me to say that she'd passed on, and I immediately then phoned around to find out what is going on.
Thato, let me bring you into this conversation. And it's interesting because the generational gap between the two of you is so vast. And Udo, you insisted that Thato should be here tonight too, simply because of the kind of relationship that you had with Mam Winnie. Describe it to us.
Well, allow me first to say condolences to both the Mandela and the Madikizela families for sharing themselves and Mama with us. Mama was a woman she was a true lady, of great talent. She had guts and gumption, and her poise didn't hurt. And my lessons with her were very poignant. They were very important to me, and I think I'll carry them for the rest of my life. And she always took a keen interest in the youth. She always had an ear to the ground, and she was always amongst young people. I think you saw the footage with Julius Malema. Back at Wits, with Sasko, she was always there from the very beginning, and young people were a key part of her life, an integral part of her life.
Tell us about the first time you met her.
Well, the first time I met her, I was introduced to the family by both Mr. Udo Froese and the late Ruth Mompati. And from the very beginning, when I said I'm from Kuruman and I went to Tiger Kloof, where the late Ruth Mompati had gone to, she took a keen interest. She'd been to Kuruman before, after 1994, and she always referred to it as that far-flung place. And she wanted to know, as the biggest province in the country, how it had developed for the people, specifically for the black majority, and what the changes were. And from the first time I met her until the very last days, she carried with her a fighting spirit. I think that signified for the black majority a social and political awakening. And again, it's up to the young people to continue where she left off, fill in the gaps, right the wrongs, and do what they can to make sure that the lives of black people are bettered.
Udo, In terms of her characteristics, what are those that stand out for you about the woman?
Strong, sharp-witted, razor-blade mind, together, always happy, never down, never wimpish or anything like that, always very upright. She walked straight to the last day. When she turned 70, there was a big party for her in Midrand. I was there and she walked upright. She looked like a 40-year-old woman. So she was beautiful to look at as well, not only to listen to, but really to look at. She was a feast for the eyes. And so are her daughters, her direct daughters, Zinzi and Zeni, are very beautiful women. So in general, Winnie Mandela is literally the last icon that passed South Africa, that passed in South Africa. There's no one like her after that anymore, no matter who says what. This is the last one.
Let's talk about, you know, the time that you may have spent with her in those years of the early 90s. The country was in transition. During that time, you also have the introduction of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Were you there with her still?
Yes, I was. And the TRC, in my view, in retrospect, I must honestly say, it was a farce.
Why? Why do you feel that way?
Nothing came from it. It was a publicity stint, that's all. And the people who complained bitterly, they got 30,000 rand as a gift and to shut up and to go. So for me, this is just not on. In my view, the Germans in 1948, the Nuremberg trial was something to actually take as a yardstick, something that was never done in South Africa. So therefore, a major sector of the society here, of the minority groups, believe that they actually are entitled to the same life they had pre-apartheid. And now post-apartheid has become pre-apartheid. Racism is there, and then you find politicians scandalizing around, black smearing, and at the same time, character assassination is the old Stratcom strategies. They're still there. There's no changes.
How did the TRC process affect her on a personal level? Because we know that part of what came out of the TRC, whether it was in relation to the Stompie story, whether it was in relation to perhaps how she handled herself within the struggle, many of those things left almost a cloud over her head. And recently, actually this week, I was looking at an interview she did, and she spoke about how she was so angry by the way that the Archbishop Desmond Tutu had asked her to apologize for something that she felt that she had not done, and said that she found it very hard to be able to forgive him. So did you have conversations about the personal impact of that process holistically on her?
I think she didn't care much for the TRC at all. I was believe that Tutu overstepped his mark. He was not the right person. It was a bad choice. If you recall the interview, the BBC Hard Talk interview with President Mugabe of Zimbabwe, he described Tutu as the evil little bishop. So you have all these things that came along. And who was a bishop to tell Winnie Mandela what to do and to accuse her of being a part of apartheid? That is wrong. That was completely wrong. And it was actually trying to get to the soft underbelly of the ANC, in my view. Instead of focusing on the what you call it, vlakplaas, on de Kock and on Walter Basson and de Klerk and all these people, they focus on Winnie Mandela. Where's the logic?
What do you think are some of the things that have become synonymous with her, or that have been linked to her, that you think are wrong? How, in terms of how history around her has been recorded?
Well, her husband, the late, revered Nelson Mandela himself, said, and I was there, I overheard him saying that, and so were the children. He said he knew that Winnie Mandela was not guilty of the Stompie murder. She had nothing to do with it. He himself said that. He would not just say that willy-nilly. He was a thorough thinker. So his statement was very clear that she was no part of the Stompie killing.
And part of challenging that narrative, Thato, seems to be taken up by a young generation of people when we see the way that they are mourning Mam Winnie, not just in their actions, but also the kind of conversations that are taking place on social media. From your experience of her, do you think that the way that her story is almost being retold is a fair reflection from what you know about her?
Let me say this. I'm actually glad that, young people, especially black people, are taking an active part in retelling the narrative, the whole narrative about Mama's life. Because she was a strong black woman, and intersectionality has a lot to do with it. If you're going to speak about black violence of a black woman, you have to also ask yourself, what led her to that point. The other factors that played in, for a woman who she was at that time under apartheid, how do you become a violent person? The way she was portrayed by the corporate media, how do you become a violent person? It was because of all those factors of being pushed to a point where you cannot take it anymore. And you cannot take the struggle of the black people, the struggle of the black youth, and the normalized South African way of life that didn't offer black people any other better choice. And so she was a leader. She took up that leadership role and she fulfilled it to the end. And for that, we're proud of her. And today, we're proud of the narrative that's changing about her life. And it has to continue. And not only that, black people have to live it through in honor of Mam Winnie's life.
What will you remember and miss most about her?
I will miss her sincerity. She was a very sincere person. And she always drew you in keenly to listen to what you had to say and who you are and what you're about, where you come from. And she was funny. She had a sense of humor, a roaring laughter, and she was an all-round elder. She became an elder. She came full circle in her life. She became that elder that could reprimand when that was the need. And she became an elder who supported young people, open to those outside the family, and she was always welcoming. And we're going to miss her very much.
Udo, share with me a fond memory that comes to mind as you think about her life, the experiences you guys have shared in the last week. Which of those memories almost sticks out?
For me personally, it is a very personal thing. When my mother passed away in 2006 in Windhoek, Namibia, where I'm from, originally, I'm of German colonial settler stock. Winnie Mandela and Zinzi Mandela came to the funeral of my mother. And that to me was something very touching, to find them to come to me, and humbling as well for her to come to Windhoek to be with me during the funeral. That was very special. And today I must say President Hage Geingob of Namibia has named one of Windhoek's main streets after Winnie Madikizela-Mandela, mother of the nation. And I hope that South Africa will follow suit. I wonder if there's a street or a building, whatever, named after her in South Africa today besides a squatter camp. I really hope that she will get all the accolades for in future history from now onwards.
How would you describe your loss?
It's like a mother went, as if my mother had gone. Same loss.
All right.
Very special.
What would you want South Africans to remember about her tonight?
Her perseverance, courageous perseverance, and especially for young people, because I speak for them, because I'm one of them, that we should, take a keen interest in internationalism. We must be keen participants in democratic processes in Parliament. We must know entertainment aside, celebrity dome aside, we must take part in our democratic processes. We must be adventurous, we must be leaders, and selfless service.
All right. Let me thank you both, gentlemen, for your time on Newsnight tonight.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure speaking to both of you, and condolences for your loss too tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right. And of course, that was Udo Froese. He's a former spokesperson and even driver for Mam Winnie Madikizela-Mandela, and Thato Mmereki, a youth spokesperson also, a man who says he was mentored by Mam Winnie Madikizela-Mandela. And, it was under that guidance that he took a keen interest in politics.